you become more critical. You become more critical of yourself and others. You start to take out your red pen and mark things up just because you can. You point your finger at mistakes that don't really matter. And it's not useful. It's just not a useful trait. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Kayla, and this is where we talk all about project management in lean teams and startup organizations. First off, I want to say thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you to anyone new who's watching. I invite you to like and subscribe. Let me know your comments. Let me know what questions you have. I am really interested in this area of project management with smaller teams, and I want to help you. Let me know how I can. Okay, on to today's topic. Today we are going to talk about something that I find super fascinating. I've always been interested in personality, and I do a lot of research on my own personality and how that comes out in different facets of my life, like the workplace. And so I thought it would be interesting to talk about personality and the project manager, because I also have a feeling that a lot of us project managers have very similar personality types. Just a guess there. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of examine this from a little different perspective. I was inspired by the Enneagram. If you don't know what the Enneagram is, do a quick search on it. It's just a personality assessment, a way to, look at your personality and measure it. And something that the Enneagram does that's a little different from some of the other assessments is it takes certain traits or attributes of your personality and examines those in what those things look like when you're moving in a healthy direction or when you're in a healthy place in your life, and what those traits look like when you're not in a healthy place or when you're moving toward an unhealthy place. I think the Enneagram calls it the direction of disintegration. Your personality is literally disintegrating. So I thought it would be interesting to take a couple of the attributes that are valued in project managers and examine those from the perspective of okay, what do those look like when we use those in a healthy way? And what do those look like when they're used in an unhealthy way? Sort of how can our strengths become our weaknesses, sort of a thing. So I have two that I want to talk about today. They're not the top two or anything like that, but they're just two that I thought would be interesting to examine from this angle. And the first one is being detail-oriented. And we all know that being detail-oriented is important as a project manager. And we use this in a lot of ways, right? The reason we use it and why it's important is because we have all kinds of information coming at us from different directions. We have stakeholders and we have subject matter experts and our actual team who we're working with. We have budgets and scopes of work and deliverables and multiple projects, and the list never ends. We have so many details coming at us. And while we have systems to help us keep that information in place, a lot of us use our brains to store that information, organize it, and be able to recall it when we need to. You'll find really good project managers are able to recall all kinds of details that are sort of surprising. But the reason we're able to do that is because we do pay attention to the details. We're detail-oriented to a degree that maybe other team members are not, so it makes us valuable. What does this look like, though, when our detail-oriented nature goes bad? When we start using it in ways that hurt us or hurt our teams rather than help us? Well, it looks more like being critical, right? Being critical of others and being critical of ourselves. It looks a lot like perfectionism, actually. And we know that perfectionism is not really that great of a thing. If you are anything like me, you have struggled with these perfectionist tendencies for your whole life, and perfectionism can really hold you back. Working in startup helped me with perfectionism because I learned about MVPs. I learned about how to really focus on the end result, and that how sometimes those little tiny details in between don't matter or don't matter enough to focus our time and energy on. So that was a helpful lesson for me in startup. But you'll notice when you start to use your detail-oriented nature in ways that aren't necessarily helpful but harmful, you become more critical. You become more critical of yourself and others. You start to take out your red pen and mark things up just because you can. You point your finger at mistakes that don't really matter. And it's not useful. It's just not a useful trait. So watch that. Pay attention to it. Ask yourself why you're doing that. is really the ultimate question. A lot of times it stems from being stressed, having some personal issue that needs to be worked out, or just needing to take a minute. Take a minute, go for a walk, take a day, take a week, whatever you need to take. A lot of times for me, it's that I need to eat. I just need to have a little snack and then I feel better. Maybe you're like that too. Okay, the second trait is something I think is really interesting to examine because it's not one that you'll really see like in a job description, but it's something that is important as a project manager. It's especially important when you're working with a smaller team. And that is being the empathetic ear, or being what's sometimes called the caretaker. I've even heard it being referred to as like the mother hen or the father goose. So I'm sure you could see the myriad of ways this could possibly go wrong, right? Being empathetic is a good thing. It's a positive thing. And it's often why we are really good project managers, because we ask a lot of questions. We care. We care not only about the project and the outcome, but the people involved. And we care about the people, not just because they're on our project, but because they're human beings and we're rooting for them and we want them to be okay. And a lot of us as project managers give our heart and soul to these teams and projects that we work on. And it could be a really beautiful thing. It could be very inspiring. We could build amazing teams like this. We can accomplish a lot together. But when we use those traits in unhealthy ways, it can look more like inappropriate boundaries, right? Like maybe we don't know when to stop listening to someone. We don't know where to draw the line with spending our time on someone else's problems. Or we start to feel like another person's output is directly related to us. Like we can't tell where we end and another person begins, sort of a thing. It's a lot of boundaries issues that can occur, and we have to be careful with that. As project managers who are very empathetic, and I'm one of them, I have had to learn how to, maintain my care for others, but also set appropriate and healthy boundaries. And when we notice this going the wrong way, it can be really draining. Like that's sort of the first thing that I notice when I'm giving too much of myself is I start to become tired emotionally, physically, and I'm no longer, I just don't have like that zest or that spark that I used to have. And I need to take a step back and figure out, okay, where do I need to draw the line here? What's an appropriate boundary? If you're a project manager that has a personality similar to that, you'll want to watch out for that too, and just be careful with it. So what do you think about this concept of like where personality meets the project manager, and what sort of like traits or attributes have you noticed have helped you in project management, but have also sort of been like a source of challenge for you? I'd love to start a conversation around this. Let me know your thoughts. I look forward to hearing from you. See you soon.